What is your definition of a goddess, and are all women goddesses in the making?
My definition of a goddess is a woman who is self-aware, and she's self-aware of the God in her, or the creator in her. She's so self-aware of it that she understands that she creates her entire reality, even from incarnation to incarnation. So, especially in today's world, the law of attraction and manifestation, these are all big topics. These are all hot topics, which we know that this is not anything new. This is like old stuff that's just basically coming back up to the surface. But for me, when I talk to women about what a goddess is, I remind them that you're always creating your reality and you can't cherry pick that. So that when I say that, or how I define a woman being a goddess is someone who remembers that she's always creating her reality, even the quote unquote negative experiences and circumstances that she has.
Okay.
She doesn't cherry pick, right? She's not like, oh, I manifested this car and this job, but this narcissist boyfriend, I didn't attract that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna take these bracelets off because I don't know if they're gonna interrupt the sound.
Okay.
They're kind of loud.
I've also got the howling wind on my side. So between the bangles of the wind. Anyway, so we are all goddesses in the making, or we are all
I definitely believe that. Yeah. I believe that even the women who may be more into mainstream religion, they're also a goddess because they're a creator. Mm-hmm. They don't remember, right? They might be thinking that God is something up in the sky or somewhere outside of them, or they might have a picture of whatever God they worship in their culture, hanging up around their house. Maybe they just didn't get to the part in the story where they started to remember that they themselves are a creator as well. And that's what's happening all the time. We're always remembering.
Okay. And how does one gain knowledge of self? And is it true to say we all need guidance? I mean, yeah.
You gain knowledge of, I believe anyway, that you gain knowledge of self by going into the silence, by spending a lot of time alone. It's like that scripture that says, be still and know that I am God, right? And so by us sitting still and going into the silence and the darkness, that is when we start to hear from the creator within, from if you want to call it God, you can. People call it different names, your higher self. They might call it that. Some people call it tapping into your Akashic records. But if you are one that avoids that being alone and sitting in complete silence, then you are running from knowledge of self. And you also asked something about, do we all need guidance? I think you asked it.
Yeah, do you think that we all, in capital letters, need guidance to gain knowledge of self? Or are some people just more apt to?
Yes, I believe that we all need guidance. And I actually believe that not only do we all need guidance, but we actually agree to guide each other. Meaning that I believe that our karmic relationships, or you could call it a soul contracts that we have with different people, we already agreed, like, hey, when I'm going to run into you at this point or whatever, your job is to help me remember my true self, or help me remember that I am a creator, or help me remember my highest form of myself. And guess what? They may not do that by just rubbing you on the back and saying, do you remember that you're a creator? No, they may actually do something very harsh, very negative, very hurtful to kind of force you to go into that dark part or the silence that you may have been avoiding that whole time. So I'm just using that for an example. But yes, I absolutely believe that everyone needs guidance, and we actually made the agreement to help guide each other.
Okay. So what does being an ordained metaphysical minister entail and signify?
An ordained metaphysical minister. So the word ordained really means just to be appointed, right? But so I got my metaphysics degree from, I have a master's degree in metaphysics from University of Metaphysics in Sedona, Arizona. So one could say that I was appointed by them because I got my degree through them. However, I was already teaching metaphysics before I got my master's degree through University of Metaphysics. I was already having dreams of being told, like literally being told to go teach the metaphysics of Jesus, to go teach the metaphysics of the Bible. Like, so I feel like I was appointed. If you ask me, I would say I was appointed by God. I was appointed by the universe. I was appointed by my higher self. I was already assigned to be a metaphysical minister. So in that sense, yes, I was already ordained. And I actually think everyone is. Again, they just don't remember. They don't remember that their assignment is to help other people remember that they are a creator. And so that is the biggest part of what an ordained metaphysical minister is someone who ministers to humanity as a whole and helps them remember the metaphysics of God. So metaphysics meaning what's beyond the physical, what's beyond what you can physically see. It's the energy, or it's the creative energy that's behind the manifestation of everything that's happening in the physical realm. So an ordained metaphysical minister plays a huge role in just helping heal humanity, helping heal the soul. And I don't mean like a doctor would do, but it is called a metaphysician, right? So that is a form of a doctor, but it's a doctor more like, if the etymology of doctor really means a religious teacher. Like, I know we're used to hearing the word doctor and we go see a doctor, or we think we go see a doctor anyway.
Yeah.
But really, a metaphysician is one who works with energy and helps you understand energy and helps you how to heal. And heal is just another word for remember. That's how I interpret it anyway.
Okay.
Remember your God self.
Okay.
I hope I answered that question.
And this one, I'm not sure why I asked you, but it came to me, so I'm just asking it anyway. Does the number 13 hold a particular significance for you?
Okay. Yeah, I saw that number on there and I was like, well, maybe she saw the book, because I have a book on my website, Selfrealization of a Goddess, and it's $13.13. And people always ask me, like, is it something with the number 13? And yes, it is. So that was a great question.
Because there was also, I think there was another reference to 13 somewhere else. There was 13 steps or something to, no, but there was there were two different
13
things.
steps in Selfrealization of a Goddess, yes.
So I think that's why, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So 13 for me, well, first of all, let me give the preface that one of the skills or gifts that I feel like I have is being what I call a word magician. So I use letters and numbers as symbols to help me figure out what things mean metaphysically. So when I look at the number 13, I don't only see the number 13, I actually see symbols.
Okay.
So if you take that 3, kind of push it over and flip it over and turn it into an M, now 13 says I am, if you turn them into symbols, right? And so that's why I like the number 13, because it reminds me of I am. I actually look for that number all the time. In fact, your company reached out to me for the interview 13 days ago. So I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I'm always looking for the number 13 because it helps me remember that I am, and it helps me remember that I'm a creator, that I create my own reality. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that 13 actually goes beyond like when it comes to the cycle of the sun, we're used to 12 seasons, right? I mean, not 12 seasons, 12 different months, or 12 different zodiacs, or 12 different energies of the sun, because that's really what the zodiac is. But for me, I like to work with the mother energy, which is the cycle of 13, because there's 13 moon cycles in a year. Okay. So because I connect or I use the mother aspect or the divine feminine of God to teach self-realization of a goddess, I like to connect with the moon cycle. Not that I'm biased against the sun cycle, but I just know that the moon cycle it follows that law of 13, or that rule of 13.
Okay.
So that's my reason for connecting to 13.
Okay, interesting. So what does Blackfire offer individuals, and who can best benefit from your services?
So Blackfire offers, how can I say, to help remember that you're a creator. And it just seems so simple, right? Especially when it comes to when we get into spirituality, we start to remember that I can create my own reality. But a lot of times we forget just like that, right? We remember that, oh, I create my own reality. And then when you step outside and something happens that's not really in your favor, you can get very easily triggered to thinking that it's the devil, or it's, my ex-boyfriend put a spell on me, or like people just come up with all kind of stories to tell themselves that it wasn't me. or that it wasn't me. And it's like, no. So Blackfire or Blackfire Nation represents that energy that's like a constant reminder. And it's not for everyone, it's for everyone, but everyone is not for it. So meaning that everyone can't take that level of self-accountability. They can, or they say that they can, and then when they get to a certain, like I said, when they start manifesting certain types of experiences, they will run from it. So Blackfire helps you remember at all times that you are creating your reality at all times. And also for the healing part too, as far as me being a minister, I help. One thing that I particularly help women with, the first part of the Self-Realization of a Goddess course that I offer is called Opening the Mind. And in that part of the course, I specifically talk about women who have been raped, molested, sexually violated, physically abused. These are the main, whenever I talk about the law of attraction to women, this is the main thing that they give me, like, oh no, there's no way that I could have created that. And so I start the course off with that because I help them understand how incarnations pass over from life to life, and it all comes through the womb, and how it's connected to what your mother and your grandmother and your great-grandmother also went through. So when I start breaking it down like that, that helps them understand on a deeper or a metaphysical level how they could have not necessarily created that circumstance, but it's something that was already passed down in their blood, and it's their assignment to heal that so that it doesn't get passed down to another generation. So I just wanted to give you an example of how I help women, particularly women.
Okay, I see. Okay, so it's kind of like a heritage that we have to. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely, and we inherit our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers. We inherit their memories in our blood. And so because we have that vibration in our blood, we very well can attract a situation that can create that experience for us again, because it was never, the story was never changed or never let go of generations ago. And so it just keeps, repeating itself. I'm not saying that that's going to happen every single time, but in my experience, when I do one-on-one sessions with women, they almost always tell me that this also happened to their grandmother or their mother.
Okay, fascinating. So if you could define the role of metaphysics in our world, what would it be?
Well, metaphysics is happening very, very much right now in our world. I mean, it's always happening, but in today's world with social media and people are quitting their jobs by the boatload, right? Because people are realizing that I'm a creator. And people are starting to realize that I have a voice and I have something and I have a story that I want to share with the world. And so people are quitting their jobs because they're realizing that I'm bigger than this cubicle that I've been sitting in day after day after day, doing a job that I don't want to do. And so the metaphysics that lives in us, that lives in our soul, that knows that metaphysics means to go beyond the physical or to go more into the unseen or the energy of a thing. That is what's drawing us to want to create. So I don't care if it's just a TikTok video, I don't care if it's just a YouTube video. I don't care when you go on Canva. I don't know if you have Canva, right? Or you're familiar with Canva.
No, I'm not.
When you go in there, you don't? Okay, so it's like software that you can go into that you can create different designs, different type of graphics and things like that. And you can just go in there and get lost. There's so much. You can have so much fun designing graphics in Canva. But my point is that is us waking up and realizing that we are creators.
Okay.
So I feel like that's how metaphysics is being expressed on a grand scale. Like people are experiencing it and not even realizing it. They just know that I hate my job and I don't want to do this anymore.
90% of the population.
No. Say that again.
90% of the population, hates.
Yeah. Right. Most people are waking up every day and doing something that they don't really, really love to do. And so even the people that are don't know what they want to do, they just know I don't want to do this. I don't want to get up and come here every day. That is the creative energy in them that's kind of giving them the nudge or the higher self that's saying, hey, it's more to this than what you think that it is. And you definitely can express it. And I want to express it through you. So that is metaphysics at work today. I think so.
Okay. Why do you feel that women particularly seem to have lost sight of their true strength and inner beauty as opposed to men?
That was such a good question. So here's my opinion. I read a book called Mysteries of the Dark Moon. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the author's name right now.
Fine.
But that book, you ever heard of it?
No, but I'll find it.
Okay. That book was so impactful and so inspiring to me because it was when I started really understanding divine feminine energy. And that book talks about the cycles of the zodiac and the cycles that the sun goes through and the cycles that the moon goes through and astrology. And it talks about how at some point we were more influenced by the feminine aspect of what we could call God or feminine energy, and then feminine energy had more rulership or more influence over our being, and then we started moving more towards masculine energy, and that's when the world started to change. I mean, she gives a lot of historical facts, and she cites a lot of historical events that have happened over time. And so in that book, she explains how we get influenced by, these different energies. It's kind of like a pendulum swinging, back and forth. So to answer your question, I feel like as we went through this swinging into the masculine being more influential on Earth as a whole, that women started to forget, their internal femininity, and it became more about the external, which is what masculine energy represents. Masculine energy is more about what you can see on the surface. We need it because it's part of our experience. We need all of our senses and things like that. So in order for us to even have this experience, we definitely need it, but we are not supposed to get trapped in it to the point where we forget that there's another internal part. We can get so trapped in it that we lose our own self-awareness. And I think that is where women started to forget that, to get in tune with their emotions. And this is how I think that our psychic ability started to get out of whack, and our intuition started to get out of whack because we started to get wrapped up in that masculine energy or being too influenced by it, like out of balance. I hope that makes sense.
No, I think it makes sense.
But I think we're going back the other way now.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
really do.
Yeah.
You do?
There's a shift, I think.
Definitely, there's a shift. There's definitely a shift to do more inner work, and that's more feminine. The inner work is more feminine. Even not, it's not a gender thing. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Of course,
Right? It's not a gender thing. So even when men decide to meditate more, to spend more time on self-care, to spend more time alone, and that's also them tapping into their feminine nature. They may not realize it, but
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, they probably don't want to hear it. Is
usually not.
Is self-realization the key to living successfully, one's life purpose, and more?
I absolutely believe that self-realization is the key to one's life purpose, but I just want to elaborate on, the words life purpose a little bit. And this is something that I also tell my self-realization students and people that come to me for one-on-one, like spiritual counseling, to not get wrapped up in the idea of a life purpose being like, oh, I'm supposed to be this big star and this big well-known speaker. And even though some of those are my aspirations to be a well-known, public speaker, but I know beneath all of that is really just, like I said in the beginning of the interview, to help others remember their God self. And I feel like that's everybody's life purpose. I feel like that's everybody's, goal. Whether we're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, we are helping each other remember that you're a creator. So self-realization is literally you realizing yourself, is literally you realizing your true self. The philosophy of self-realization, it has background in Hinduism, Buddhism, I think Jainism, if I'm saying that word correctly, and they all have to do with remembering your spiritual self. And so when you remember that part of yourself, that's when you do tap into your life purpose. That's when your spiritual gifts start to awaken. That's when you start to remember your, maybe Akashic records. You can start seeing past life stuff. I mean, I know I have in my dreams. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's necessary. in a long story short, it's necessary.
Okay. And what can you tell us about your life journey and how you came to help others in need?
Woo, that would be a whole nother interview, but no, I'll keep it short.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, right. So my life journey, what led me here to becoming a metaphysical minister was pain. That's always what I tell everybody, that pain is what's going to knock on a door that's going to push you to go inside yourself. And so I have been through a life full of abandonment from my mother and father, which I don't call it that anymore because I've healed that. I just say that for the sake of connecting with others and helping them understand. But yes, my mother and father were both drug addicts, and they left me with my grandmother when I was young and didn't really come all the way back into my life until I was like a teenager. Then growing up, I have been date raped before. I've been physically abused. I've gone through like just a lot of traumatic experiences that just kept pushing me closer to going inside of myself. But the main thing, I will say, if I could pick like a turning point, was when I was crying over a guy. It doesn't even matter who it was, but I was crying over some guy. One of my girlfriends asked me, "Hey, did you ever get your palm read before?" And I was like, "No." She was like, "Let's go do that." So we went to a palm reader. And Sarah, this lady had me sniffling bubbles out my nose. Okay. She read me like a book. Wow. She knew that I was a first child. She knew about traumatic experiences that I had. She told me that, I had a lot of negative experiences with love. And at the end of all of that, she told me that I was supposed to be teaching. She was like, "You're a teacher." She said, "But you need to connect with your God self." And from there on, it just like a light bulb was like, oh, okay. And now, of course, my first stop was to church. I went to church. And I started getting back into the Bible and Jesus. And then some months later, I'm gonna say 6 to 8 months later, I was kind of side-eyeing some of that stuff, like some of this stuff not making sense. And then from there, when I start questioning it, and I started going into those dark parts of myself that I tell everybody else to do, sitting in the silence, I started getting downloads, like dreams and visions, and my spiritual gift of clairaudience got awakened. I started hearing things when I was falling asleep. I would hear scriptures. Scriptures would be explained to me what they meant, and I was just like mind blown. And that was pretty much the beginning of me being interested in metaphysics, because at that point I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know what a metaphysician was. But yeah, that was the turning point, and I became interested in mainly helping women. Just because of my own traumatic experiences. Yeah. I became interested in helping women, and a lot of women gravitated towards me because of my transparency in social media, which led to Selfrealization of a Goddess in my book and my course. And
wonderful.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm here. Yeah. And I wound up quitting my job to do this full time. Yeah. In 2018, amazing. I quit my job.
Well done. Well done.